Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I am joined by this nerd.
Anarchist Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Good man, that was a really slow Nerdarchist Ted. Like, are you a little
Oh,
tired tonight?
actually, no. I just, sometimes you gotta, stretch it out a little bit.
I think I caught you mid typing. You're like, who am I? Oh, Nerdarchy Ted. That's right.
Well, I was typing because you were hitting the button. As always, there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that needs to be done here at Nerdarchy. And, since, it was Dave and I on the chat, I'm like, oh, let me get this thing done, get this typed. He's like, I'm going to hit the button. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to finish a couple buttons here.
It's time. Go, 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 go,
Oh, at the speed of lightning, maybe?
go. Yes, tonight we're talking about thunder and lightning. And we're having a riveted conversation. Why do you say thunder and lightning and not lightning and thunder? Even though, like, lightning strikes and then the peals of thunder come later, and alphabetically lightning's first.
So why is it said thunder and lightning?
I don't know, man, but I feel like, I mean, Ted didn't quite agree with me, but I feel like saying lightning and thunder, like, there's probably a special place in hell for those people.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't I don't think it quite goes that far. It sounds wrong, but I don't feel like I'm gonna burn for saying it wrong.
oh, absolutely, you're gonna burn.
Well, but when we look at thunderbolts and lightning that could possibly be very very frightening, it only grasps a handful of concepts. Lightning bolt is definitely an iconic D&D spell. In fact, when I think of wizard spells, it's probably in the top three that come to mind as go-to spells for combat. But beyond that spell, lightning is definitely one of the lesser choices I feel when it comes to dealing damage in combat. And thunder and the previously referred to as sonic damage in other editions is even less so. So we felt lumping them together because thunder and lightning offer more things outside of those particular damage types could be fun to talk about.
so I talked about this a little bit in earlier editions, like that you like one. There's a couple things. One, like in third edition, there was no thunder and lightning damage. Like they didn't exist. They weren't things. Like in 5e, I don't know if they changed it in 5e or if it changed in 4e. I don't remember where the change happened. Um, but it used to be electric. You would take electricity damage or electrical damage, and you would take sonic damage.
Because sonic was anything that would be sound. And
Right.
now
It kind of makes more like it kind of made more sense and makes more sense because like, but now like anything that would be sonic damage, they just call it thunder, even though it may not have anything to do with thunder at all. Very
uh,
confusing.
maybe there's people that just didn't like that concept. I felt it definitely had more room to kind of put things in that place. If I had essentially a sonic attack, and there's definitely superheroes and monsters that fall into that realm, but is it really thunder? Like
Yeah.
thunder
What was
flies
those weird apparitions from third edition?
the Strachan.
Yeah, they just like would scream sonic attacks at you.
They had those like weird rippling neck things that kind of fluffed out when they did their breath weapon.
I don't think we've gotten another version of that, have we?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing it a fifth edition Destraken, but you already proved me wrong on another point today. So I am not gonna give a vote.
Yeah, yeah. Tonight's episode of Nerd is brought to you by two old guys reflect upon what used to be in D&D and can't remember.
But when getting into the concept of thunder and lightning, there's two aspects that I kind of look at. Number one, when storms happen, the things that bring about the thunder and lightning. So often, you hear the storms are coming, and it's always like a catalyst for a change. And like those are elements that I think are like the most apropos to a game like D&D, since everything about D&D is always something is changing. You're attempting to thwart an adversary from doing something. Meanwhile, you are growing, you are learning, you are getting better at things. So I think, from a thematic standpoint, thunder and lightning, that element, that component of change, is the most apropos for D&D.
Also, like, so from that standpoint too, and that kind of makes me think, right? Like, if you were in an area that was just being rocked by thunder and lightning, and so much so, and that just invokes this, sheets of rain, and the wind is howling, and you can't hear anything. Yeah, I surmise you'd be like deafened, right, and have probably have the deafened condition. But in
Absolutely.
5e, the deafened condition is rather lame. Like in previous editions, if you got deafened, if you were a spellcaster and your spell had verbal components, there was a percentage you would misspeak the words, right, and it would mess up your spell. But in 5e, it's like, well, you just can't hear anything, and you just automatically fail ability checks that require hearing.
Right.
Which I just don't feel like it comes up all that often. I mean, perception and maybe investigation a little bit, but like, I don't know, in the middle of the conditions that would cause it naturally, it doesn't seem like it's going to be as big a thing.
Yeah, I mean, fifth edition, has a reputation amongst some of the older gamers as the easy button, and like part of me is like, oh, I'm okay with that, but it also gives you the tool set to be like, look, you want to make it harder. There are things that you can do. There are ways to really dial it back and remove that easy button. So it's a matter of what you want to do at your table. Um, so I haven't done a whole lot of you know grim play. Things where it's like, all right, survival is a serious issue on a session to session basis. But I know that there are games out there, and it's done in 5e, and done well. So,
Well, I bring it up because like when you're trying to set a mood, right?
mhm.
And you're really trying to tap into the senses, and the idea of not being able to hear and being deafened, like that to the point where like the world has kind of gone silent around you, and just like everything's being lit up by lightning strikes. It just feels like it should have more meaning when you're trying to implement that scene,
Sure, yeah.
in an encounter.
You could definitely go in that direction. You could even dial it another direction of either a happenstance or related to the foe that's being fought. It could be a situational or battleground hazard that lightning strikes the battlefield while it's going on. And you could totally bring in some real world meta and have it attracted a higher range towards the people who are slathered in metal armor, or you could just totally make it be random. It could hit the good guys, it could hit the bad guys, or maybe it is entirely an element of the bad guy and have it only affect the heroes, and you basically treat it like a lair action.
Yeah, that would be cool. Also, like I know you like using waves, maybe
Mhm.
using the cover of thunder as a way to like sneak more combatants onto the battlefield, where they just almost like appear out of nowhere because you can't hear anything that's going on, and so it's really easy for them to kind of sneak up on you.
Yeah, I mean, if you automatically fail checks, there's no way to for you to hear them coming in. And if sight is blocked until they round the corner, based on wherever you are, it could totally work and just be like, all right, they're there. You don't have any way to kind of mitigate the issues before they begin pouring into the room that you're in.
And the chat they bring up a good kind of a good point. The armor artificer, like depending which version of the armor you're using, one of them has a thunder attack and one of them does have a lightning attack. Now, I'm not quite sure how you would implement that specifically or take advantage of it. I know like if you mix lightning with Tempest Cleric, like you can get some cool effects. But I'd have to go back and reread the specifics on the Tempest Cleric to see like how it would interact. If it calls out specifically spells or if it's just lightning damage. Because I think, but still, like I think it takes 6 levels.
Right.
So it's like this is a significant investment.
Yeah, that's a commitment.
That being said, you do get some cool things from 6 levels of cleric.
Yes.
But depending on how high of a level game you're playing, it may not matter that much.
But I mean, cleric artificer, that's a decent clip of spell slots that you're going to be able to play with, and then a pretty awesome spell selection to go with, artificer and cleric.
Yeah, I mean, also like the Wrath of the Storm gives you as a reaction, you can just do lightning damage to people, thunder or lightning damage to people, right? Yeah, number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You can max out damage, but like for those base attacks, it's not really that impressive. It is okay. So Thunderbolt Strike at 6th level, you deal lightning damage to a large or smaller creature. You can also push it 10 feet away from you. So yeah, you only need to get to 6th level, and it does, it just has to be lightning damage.
So is that a possible, cleric artificer character build in the potential queue there, Dave?
It could be possibly. We have to see what other synergies we can make happen. It's definitely a combination we have not used. Well, I can tell you that much.
To be completely and utterly fair, I have to say, like the armorer just feels, well outside the realm of a typical like D&D character and stretches far too close to me as, hey, you want to play Iron Man in D&D?
It is totally, do you want to play Iron Man?
So like to me, I've always kind of like steered away, and I totally allow it in my games and what have you, but it's like I've read it and I've forgotten it because like I look at it and this is Iron Man and I move on. So but I'm not gonna poo-poo somebody's fun if that's what they want to play. And, so far as even in my own games, I'm like, all right, it's canon, but so yeah, go for it. If that's your jam, do it up. Have fun.
I mean, it also lets you basically have full plate without like the strength requirement as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's whatever. Like you actually have to have armor, and then you can enchant it. But it's not that hard to get full plate. So, and then actually being what you are, you can actually turn it into a magic suit of armor if you want it.
And that's always the fun thing about the
artificer.
Yep. But
I do like the idea. So your normal range is 90 feet on the lightning, and long range is 300 feet. Mm-hmm. Too bad there isn't any ways to adjust it. Although it is a ranged weapon, so sharpshooter would eliminate the disadvantage after 90. So it just give you a flat range of 300. And then the idea of being able to push things like 10 feet every time you hit them. Mm-hmm. And they do get extra attack. So it's like, it would just be annoying, right? Because you're trying to get over them and fight them. And between the it's not as annoying as the Warlock with Eldritch Blast. But come on, if you put the two of them together, mm-hmm. They're pushing you 40 feet around. So go. I'll be there any day now. And then just like, I don't know, add insult to injury and just throw in a you know, a wizard with like the Ray of Frost cantrip or something to slow them down. It's just like, come on already, let me get over there. Also,
to be fair, you always have the capabilities of, having a combat where it's not possible to push somebody out of a room. Like, you can't go through a wall with those things.
not with that attitude, you can't.
No, no.
Oh, well, also the Battle Master too, right? Because the Battle Master could do a pushing attack.
Yeah.
So you could just like
Battle Master Archer.
Yeah, although at that point, right, like, I mean,
that there's another video of, what's the push party.
yeah. Oh, actually, the Battle Master. If you had Battle Master levels, you could just combine it as well. So you could push. You could push 20 feet.
How many different ways you can,
Yeah. Although, I mean, at that point, you're going to be really spreading yourself thin.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, as opposed to doing it as a single character build,
the party.
Build the party.
Although, honestly, I feel like you only really need.
Eldritch Blast can come with, a dip or a feat. Battle Master, you need 3.
You only really need 3 levels of the Artificer to do it. Like to get just to get those specific things.
Mm-hmm.
If you want lightning launchers.
Sure. All right, so 3 levels of fighter, 3 levels of cleric, 3 levels of artificer, 1 level of warlock, and that gives you all the rest to play with cleric.
Well, I wouldn't do any warlock. What would you get out of warlock?
Eldritch Blast.
Well, we don't need Eldritch Blast because we're already using our attack to do something else.
That's true.
It would be the same thing. The Eldritch Blast is just better at the higher levels because you get more bolts,
right?
So you can push further. But you can't combine. I don't think you can combine Eldritch Blast with the Battle Master maneuvers. So that's where it was. I didn't know we were going to do a character build on here tonight. It just happened. But you mentioned storms. Like, if you were playing in the earlier editions, you could literally take them to the plane of storms, the parallel plane of lightning, also referred to as the plane of storms, which has got to suck. Especially if you are someone that wears metal armor.
Yeah, and again, you can totally bring that real world element of, lightning being attracted to metal could always be a bad thing.
Yeah. I blame Dingus McDonald's for the impromptu character building.
Well, instead of blaming, I'm thanking him or them
for the inspiration.
For the inspiration. And as always, if you people out there have anything you want us to talk about, or you got questions, the chat is there. Obviously, we are clearly responding and whatnot to them. So yeah, bring it on.
It isn't the only, like, we've done several lightning builds though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've done it. Like, I don't think we've done anything specifically with thunder because there isn't as many good synergies.
Right.
But with lightning, no need to apologize, Dingus. I'm just being me, crotchety and old. We appreciate the diversions. No, so like because I know we did like our Thundercat build, but really it's more like a Lightning Cat build for sure. I mean, the video hasn't gone out yet, but we also play with not thunder, but lightning a little bit with Magic Missile.
Mm.
When that video goes out, you folks can see what I'm talking about there. And there's probably been some other character builds because, I mean, that LC Gamer mentioned one of the character builds, and I'm like, I don't even remember. We've done so many of them at this point.
He was talking about the tank build, and we definitely did like
several.
We did a best AC video, so like that could be what he's talking about.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's
I also feel like we also did like an overall tank too, not just AC.
Right.
Because like getting to like an uber high AC is kind of easy, and they
Right.
always have like the same problems. It's like
Yes.
you're still gonna have to worry about deck saves because that's probably going to be annoying for you, and natural 20s always are going to hit.
Yeah. And like no matter what you wind up doing, like my character's the best at X. Like unless you have got, some, essentially golden god type character,
Yeah.
like you're always going to have some kind of weakness. You've always got something that, you're not the best at. Um, you know,
Except for the skill character, they end up good at everything.
okay, but you can't be great at every saving throw. You can't be great at, you know, every saving throw, all the primary skills, and armor class. Like I've never seen that all in one build. Like if you go like paladin monk and realize that you're going to chuck so much of things out of your way, getting your charisma bonus to saving throws, proficiency with all saving throws, like, all right, you can really go all out, and you can wind up picking up plate armor and a shield, but most of your monk shit is not going to work
Yeah.
because you're wearing, armor and a shield and all these other, AC bumps.
I think we did that. I think with the tank build we did that where we got a bunch of bumps to saving throws in addition to the other stuff.
Mhm.
We did not go the monk route because it requires way too many levels.
Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about, is literally getting proficiency with every saving throw through monk is pretty nice. And then if you have a maxed out charisma, that you're getting that on top of proficiency and your regular stat as well, that can be pretty nice. I mean, at 17 level, it's you're getting
The game's almost over.
the game's almost over, but you're at a plus 11 before you add your stats. So
yeah, and that's all you're going to be able to do, and your stats probably won't be great because you need strength, wisdom. I mean,
strength,
yeah, you need strength,
wisdom, charisma, and dex.
yeah. So you just most of the stats. Other than that, you're fine.
And you have to have a high enough strength to be able to wear the plate mail that you're wearing.
Well, at that point, I don't even know if you bother wearing the armor. I don't know, but your dex and your wisdom probably aren't going to be high enough to give you a good AC. So there's that. You just need bracers of armor or something, or or 3 levels of artificer. Then you don't have to worry about it. Also, also, like I played a character that was wearing heavier armor than they could wear. It just reduces your speed.
Right.
Doesn't like it's not really that crippling. It's just like you trundle along and you get there and you're like, all right, I'm staying in this spot right here. But I think if you're a dwarf, I don't think that affects you. Because, dwarves.
Well, dwarves get proficiency, so.
Well, not in heavy armor, but no, like I think part of their thing with their speed is armor requirements don't reduce their speed. Yeah, your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. So you can be the weakest dwarf on the planet is much better at wearing armor than other people.
Well, I mean, that's always a direction to go.
Aaron Parks wants to know what are your thoughts on energy substitution or energy admixture feat like 3.5? So it showed up 2 places in the game kind of already. One was the lore wizard? Was that the one that made Ryan nearly have an aneurysm?
I think so.
Yeah, he was very vested in that. But it was good. If you go back and find that video, like I think he's got this vein that starts popping out of his head. Like he almost died. That one did it, and that was like just unlimited. But then also the scribe also allows you to do it. So that you can, as long as you have the energy type at that spell level, you can swap between them So you can do lightning or acid balls instead of fireballs.
And isn't there like a feat in the player's handbook that has like you pick an element and you can always swap out to that?
No, I mean the only one in there for elements is elemental adept, and that lets you ignore resistance, I think.
Okay, I thought it allowed you to change the damage type. Uh, but
No, it doesn't do it. Doesn't do anything with the damage types. I don't know if they added this. I think the sorcerer meta magics also. There's a sorcerer meta magic that lets you switch them too, but that one is more limited as far as what you can switch. You got transmuted spell. You can cast a spell that deals a type of damage from the following list. You can spend one sorcery point to change that damage type to one of the other listed types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, and thunder. So basically, the elements it's the elements plus poison, which I mean, in some ways that's actually better than what the scribe has, because Order of the Scribe, like some levels, you're really like digging to find another spell that actually has the energy type that you want to use. It's a little more versatile, but it's a little bit tougher. Where this is just like I spend a point, and now it's this other thing. It's just it's just limited as far as which elements you can switch it to. So if you wanted to do an energy admixture substitution, I would say play a sorcerer and take the transmuted spell, which is also an awesome addition to meta magic, because some of them can be kind of situational or iffy, but like that one's great because if something has a vulnerability, they have a resistance, they have an immunity, like you don't have to worry about having a bunch of different spells, and it kind of frees you up, right? So if you're like, I fireball, that's what I do, and you don't have to want to worry about like a variety of attack spells for third level, that area of effect. You don't have to. You can just have fireball, and with this, when you need to spend a point, you spend a point, and it can be one of the other types of damage.
I don't want a lightning bolt. I want a lightning ball. I mean that's definitely a way to go. Now the admixture, I believe that was adding extra damage on top of what was there. So that kind of goes away from 5e's typical balance mechanics. So like I don't think something like that would wind up happening, albeit with a hey, you might be able to add like a die 6 or something of an energy type to an attack if you were to try and do that. But you'd have to really look at the specific wording to really think, is this outside the realm of what a feat could do?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of more in line with like the evoker's over channel ability,
Right.
or empower. I forget which one it is that lets you add extra damage. In 5e, it would more likely be a feature, and it'd be something that would be a limited resource, or you can use it once per turn and only on like one creature, not everybody. So yeah, there's that. I mean, like third edition was like the arms race of feats and different class options and prestige classes, getting more ridiculous with each one that came out, until eventually you got to be able to use the ultimate killing machine feature.
Is that the unlimited cleave?
Yeah, that's the cleave, where as long as you kept killing something, you could keep taking a 5-foot step and cleaving and making attack.
It's like, all right, the 20th level character, goes into a goblin or kobold warren, and as long as they're, spaced accordingly, they all die in 6 seconds.
Yeah. And at a certain point, you're just like the Flash going through there, right? Like, just a blur. Yeah.
Utterly ridiculous. But you know what? Hey,
I forget who was I talking to, but maybe it was Carlos. And when we were gaming, and I was like, and we were talking about spells and like how useless True Strike is, and I was like, well, And third edition, True Strike was a really awesome spell,
Yeah.
and it just straight up gave you a +20 to hit.
Yep.
So yeah, there was that.
And
And I also don't think you're subjected to like critical fumbles with it either.
right. Yeah, I think that, it I mean, it didn't modify your die, but it definitely, was like, all right, you're gonna hit with your next attack. So like that was a cool thing. And like I wish that we could have a better version of that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't
Well,
fit.
as a cantrip, definitely not.
No, no, no. But perhaps that'll be another spell for Nerdarchy to make. I have to come up with another name, but
Yeah, I mean, what level? At what level? So, like, and I think it was so in third edition you would have to cast it and then use it on your next round.
mhm.
But I think in fifth edition it would be a very cool reaction spell.
Mm,
Um, and like, but I would do it like you'd have to make the decision before you roll the die.
mhm.
Like when you make an attack,
Yes.
you cast True Strike. That's your reaction. Then you roll to see what you get, and you have to add to it. But that feels way too good for a like for even a first level spell in 5e.
Okay.
Maybe second level. I don't know.
Well, it's something to be workshopped.
Because I mean, there's definitely. I mean, well, I guess like if it's only affecting one attack roll, so that's not too bad. Oh, you know what? Too like the big problem that it fixes is like five. It actually works really well. No, as I babble to myself here, right? Maybe it needs to be a bonus action and not a reaction.
Okay.
Because if you make it a reaction, that means you could still cast a spell. But if you make it a bonus action, then you couldn't cast a spell that wasn't a cantrip.
Well, if it takes a spell slot, you wouldn't be able to cast a spell because you're using your reaction to cast.
Yeah, but I think when you use your reaction, it breaks that.
That's still your turn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess you're right there.
If you're reacting to yourself.
It's not like Shield, where
Yeah.
it's on someone else's turn.
So I would still come down hard on that.
Okay.
But, I don't know, something to workshop. So we've crossed our halfway point here, and while we've definitely done some talking about some oddities and whatnot, we've definitely talked about some thunder and lightning. Perhaps a nice Dracolich breathing lightning wants to come visit your table. Uh, you know,
Oh. It'd probably be easier to see if you didn't shake it.
sorry. So this is one of the more recent releases
That is so good looking.
from WizKids. I definitely love the lightning breath on this guy. So he's been kind of sitting on the shelf for a little while. Well, we also have had some other things come our way.
Yeah, shout out and thank you to Fandom, the folks behind D&D Beyond now, for sending us the Cortex Prime. So you might get some videos on that in the near future. It's a pretty book. I haven't cracked it yet, but it just came in today.
I've done a flip through. I've definitely had a lot going on. My day's been pretty busy. But the cover's really awesome looking. The interior art looks nice, and it's definitely bigger than what I was expecting. It's over 240 pages, so there's some sample game options, but it's a kind of rules engine for you to kind of do with as you will. So if you've got some love for Cortex, definitely let us know, and be on the lookout, because at some point in time we'll be talking about it. But this is always the part where I kind of chime in and talk about that. If you have not signed up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, that is definitely a way to get access to not only gaming with us, but access to our monthly giveaway. I actually just sent off a 20 or 30 pound box worth of stuff to head out into the wilds to a lucky Nerdarchy fan. If you've paid attention to our social media, I took a massive picture of the hundreds of dollars worth of stuff that we'll be giving out. And I look at my calendar correctly, that is going to be next week that I'll announce, the winner. It'll happen to be the day after, that Nerdarchus birthday.
Woohoo!
You know, so,
Oh yeah, you were at the game. I was about to tell the story that you were there for. So we played Monster of the Week Saturday night, and I run that, and my wife happens to be in that game, and my wife's like, "You know what next Sunday is?" And everyone's looking like, "I don't know," and I'm looking, and they're looking at me like I should know too because it's my wife. and I'm like, I feel like I was probably told, and I forgot, like any normal husband, right? Or I have an actual theory that they always tell us that they told us, but they never do, and then they just blame us for forgetting. Is my actual theory, but it's actually my birthday, so I'm like, oh right, I guess it means the older you get, the less it means. You're like, this means like you're 1 year closer to the end.
Well, last year's birthday during COVID, that was the last number that I had to kind of really look forward to. I'm 42.
Yeah.
From here on out, none of the numbers really are, fun or meaningful to me.
69, man.
Yeah. That's a long way away.
That is a long way away.
But getting back to newsletter, we automatically enter anybody that signs up for the newsletter that does the whole double confirm. You automatically get into the pot, get access to all the cool stuff that we do. We typically tie the Nerdarchy newsletter content to what we talk about here, expand on the ideas, we make subclasses, magic items, give all kinds of player and DM tips. It's definitely a lot of fun and a lot of cool things that we do. But as I said, if you pay attention to social media, you'll have seen the cool picture that I took showing off all the different stuff that's in there. There's minis, there's a stack of books that I talked about 2 weeks ago, as well as a whole bunch of cool swag that's in there. There's some unique artwork that we're giving away. We had friend and fan of the channel that did back when Nathan Nerdarch was still around. Jen had done the trio of Nerdarchy in her particular art style, and we've got 2 of those left. So one of them is actually going in the box. It's been sitting on the shelf for a long time. I'm like, you know what?
Pixelscapes is on Twitter. Their Twitter handle, I believe, is Pixelscapes. She does this really fun and funky. I don't know if she's still doing it or not, but she had been doing it for a while. Like, would make monster tokens, but they were like very like blacklight-ish posters from the 80s kind of feel and look to them.
So I, Wiley E. Peyote forever. That actually ties into what I was going to next mention. Signing up for the newsletter also gets you access to the Game with Nerdarchy. We do a monthly fan game. It's not streamed. We just kind of run a one shot, and signing up for that, you get an entry into it. So we'll have a list pulled for next week as well. So definitely, if you're looking to game with us, that's definitely a way to do it.
Yeah, every month we grab like 4 to 6 people and throw a one shot out there for like 3 hours or so. We play some D&D with you guys. So
hang out, chat, run a game, a lot of fun.
The normal nerdy stuff. So one of the things that I kept thinking about when we're like, oh, we're going to be talking about Thunder and Lightning. They're like Teen Titan villains from the show, not the older one, not the Teen Titans Go, which is very like cartoony and weird. But there was like one before that my son used to watch, who's 20 now, and I feel like he was like in the 3 to 5 range. I don't know when he used to watch it. So It was a while ago. And two of the villains were Thunder and Lightning. They were brothers. They were like they just lived for chaos and destruction.
Sure, I can kind of get behind that. That could very well, you know, be something that you create for D&D and run those. They could be straight up sorcerers, or something,
Elemental creatures.
elemental creatures, things from the aforementioned parallel elemental plane of storms, or beings that have been suffused with said energy and are causing the chaos. Tying it back to what I said, they could be the bearers of the storm, the catalyst for a change that you want to make in your world. In our world where we have chaos storms, like they could totally be linked to that.
But
So,
in itself, it could actually be kind of a cool adventure, because like those two characters, like I said, they're kind of brothers, and they set out and they're just like causing chaos and destruction as is per their nature, right? And like you could translate that directly into a D&D game where like either they're freed from a prison or they're summoned to the prime material plane and they're doing their thing in the eye of the storm. And like part of them doing their thing could literally be, they're kind of like creating little rifts from between this plane and the plane of lightning, the plane of storms, as their power kind of like seeps out. With that, like releasing various critters from that plane, that the players kind of have to end up dealing with, as they're trying to get to the center of the storm to figure out, what's going on with this supernatural storm. And when they get to the center, they encounter these beings, and like one of their things in the show was like they were villains, but not really. Like they just like they had no concept of what they were doing,
mhm.
and how it affected other people, other things. And one of them was like kind of like Lightning was kind of like F it, and then Thunder was kind of like, well, maybe we shouldn't do this, and just wantonly and just destroy things around us. So it could be like an interesting adventure in the sense that they have to kind of fight their way to the center of of this phenomena, and then they have the opportunity to not just like beat down some monsters, but maybe like negotiate with them, or try and convince them not to, or or threaten them, or do whatever. But in the meantime, they've kind of had to like deal with all kinds of methods, and maybe like those shocker lizards and stuff on the way there. And they get there, and instead of just having it be another combat, you can make it a social encounter.
And what could be done there is you could actually take direction, and as opposed to it just being, like you said, it just being combat, like there could be advantages, consequences depending upon what the action is taken. If they go combat, sure, they have dealt with these guys, but the storm that's brewing, either that they brought or that brought them, is now left unchecked, and it might abate on its own, or it might not.
It might it turns out it was actually better when they were there because it was somewhat controlled.
Right. So there might be some further destruction to the area now that the storm can rage in full or can rage uncontrolled. Or like, okay, these guys can kind of calm and move the storm and let it dissipate. But then after that, like, then they get to kind of still be around, and could be a somewhat chaotic element of a good guy to occasionally do stuff with.
Yeah, so, NPCs, if you ever have anything that later on, like kind of like one of those intangible rewards, is later on if the players ever need anything having to do with thunder or lightning or storms, whether it's information or just the power of those things, they can go back to these particular characters, and or maybe they become quest givers, at some point. So there's different ways to kind of have them involved, and then the reward for not just like murder hoboing them is
So
cool characters to interact with.
I like those elements where you've got that choice, and in the game that I'm running now, there have been times where I'm like, all right, I don't know how this is going to go. Fully expected it to be a fight, and they're like, nah, let's have a conversation here. Let's do this. And now like there's been two monsters that like are essentially have like telepathic connection to the party and have for like months on end, through these games. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. So like it's been useful information. It's been some insights. So it's definitely fun to sometimes turn things on their sides and be like, nah, you can befriend a beholder, sure. You can befriend a alien invading creature, sure. Why not?
I'm all about the befriending of beholders, especially if they're wearing a hat. But just know they probably will turn on you at some point.
That was definitely in my kind of long term plan. Things kind of changed, but that's cool. I can definitely kind of handle the change in the swing.
Next time,
Sure.
they can betray us.
So you already had your pet betray you. I didn't need to go too much.
Yeah. I don't know. According to Ryan's character, the Rocktopus, Inky, is that what he calls him?
No, it was Blot.
Blot has not betrayed us.
Well, he's been wrong about things before, so it is whatever it is. But out of game, that was totally the dude who was mind screwing you guys.
Yeah, I figured as much. I knew nothing good could come of that thing. I don't know why. I just had a hunch. Or maybe I was just being contrary to Occam's character. I'm not entirely sure. That happens occasionally as well.
When that I'm certain this is riveting content, but when those when you guys fought that thing and you found the octopus that was sitting on the chest, initially it was just like, well, there was an octopus on the actual chest, and somebody's like, well, is that really there? And I said, sure, why not? And
Yeah. So backstory is we go to this dream dimension, fight this creature, defeat it, and like Ted likes to do terrain and minis, and one of the scatter pieces he used was a chest, and it, like he said, it did so happen to have a little octopus on it, and so you made it a Rocktopus, which someone was like, oh, that's super cool. This is my new pet. I'm taking it with me. And we also discovered that it would absorb and eat gems, and we gave it was it a gem of brilliance?
Yes.
Which at some point is probably going to use against us. So I don't know. So while Peyote was looking at the Patreon, seems a little confused. Actually, like, to get most of the benefits, you only really just need the $3 tier, the bottom tier, and that's like, getting your name thrown in the hat for extra things like giveaways and gaming with us, as well as the monthly rewards. And then the higher tiers are just another way to support us, and there's like options where you get like coaching sessions with us or like one-on-one time.
And if you you have further questions on that and you want to kind of reach out to us, nerdarchy@gmail.com is an easy way, and we'll respond as soon as we can, knowing that there's always stuff that's going on.
But like 90, I want to say like 80%, 90% of the benefits are at the $3 tier anyway. So we like to make stuff, and it goes over there for you guys.
Indeed.
Yeah, as the case may be.
We love our patrons. We think you're awesome.
I mean, we love everyone. We just love the patrons just a tiny bit more. Tiny bit. A little bit. They help us keep the lights on.
Yeah, we gotta, it takes time, it takes effort to do this kind of stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what did you think of mystery number 3 for Monster of the Week?
So Monster of the Week, while it did not have much in the way of thunder and lightning, I definitely liked going up against ghost mobsters. Monster Week is a great game. It's a 2d6 based game.
I always feel so clunky running that game as the GM.
Why is that?
Because there's not a lot of rules.
Okay.
Right? So like everything you do is kind of ad hoc.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like our group is used to asking for rolls and checks for things.
Sure.
And also like there's a lot of like, can you do that, right? In our games. And like my personal rule is if a player asks me if they can do a thing, and then I ask them for a die roll, then that die roll has to mean something. Sure. So very little of what we actually did was actually planned out. There was stuff planned, but it was all based on like, can we do this? And I'm like, yes. Can we do this? Yes. What about this? Give me a roll. And then I was like, well, if the roll failed, it didn't really matter so much, right? But if the roll succeeded to any degree, then I'm like, okay, well, what does XSS mean? Like, what did they uncover? What did they find? So Monster of the Week has been a lot of fun because we're running it modern day local. So it's like everyone is familiar with where everything's taking place. And, we're on Mystery 3. Mystery 1 was
Jersey Devil at a campground that Dave actually camped at.
Yeah, I lost my heart at Tall Pines because that was the name of the campground. And then mystery number 2 was the case of the Fey coffee and donuts go meh. And then mystery number 3 was Ghost A Go Go. So like the first one is like if I'm doing a horror adventure and I'm doing it in New Jersey and I'm from New Jersey, I absolutely have to use the Jersey Devil.
Of course.
At some point. So I was like, I'm either saving it for the end or I'm kicking it off with that. So I did. And then like mystery number 2 involves stuff that like you guys had decided about the game and the world in our session 0.
Okay.
And then mystery number 3 was like, what am I going to do with these guys? And then I just started searching urban legends for New Jersey. And it turns out we had one of the only haunted strip clubs. And I'm like, how can I not use the haunted strip club? and it's even more specific than that because it's like, it's haunted, but it's haunted by like 1920s mobsters. So I was like, yeah.
So I definitely dig the fact that you are, pulling up specific lore that, after the fact we could go and, kind of look up. I am purposefully not trying to look up and, read anything in advance about, possible myths and lores within,
yeah.
But it's definitely tempting to be like, well, what can I learn about it in advance?
I feel like there's 2 of the players at the table that could do that and it would make sense.
Yeah. Aloysius and the professor.
And Raven.
Oh, Raven, not the professor?
Well, yeah, you know what? He would work as well. But I feel like those 2 characters are more likely to be tuned into a local.
Sure.
Where like, the one is basically a crackpot conspiracy theorist. So like that totally makes sense for them to just know weird things. The
Mhm.
other one belongs to a religious order, but it's local, so they would know what's going on around them. The professor is Princeton, right? He's from Princeton,
Mhm.
so like he might know, but I also feel like I would feel like that's a good character to know like more broader stuff. And then
Okay.
we also have like a falling angel type character who we'd
And
also know like broader stuff, especially on the shadier side of the spectrum.
yeah, and then we've got Jason, the for lack of a better word, the warlock in the party, who's me.
Who,
Um,
yeah, just kind of fell into it. Like
he
he's a
doesn't really know
misfit.
squat.
He just fumbles through, throwing magic around.
But to answer Aaron's question, about what kind of game is it, anything that you kind of look at Scooby Doo, Supernatural, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dresden Files, like anything where like you have a problem that could happen in a modern day society, that really does fall into a Monster of the Week game. And it's designed where you're presented a challenge, and sometimes like the monster's right there at the start, but you don't know how to deal with it, so you have to figure out how to solve the problem
It
without
is.
dying.
It
And
is very heavily modeled off of Supernatural. Like, I mean, they even call the heroes hunters,
right.
which is what they're referred to in Supernatural. Although I think there's an actual Cortex Supernatural game. Like there was a bunch of games that were made with Cortex.
But I mean, I'll step off camera for just a second, because I happen to have it close at hand. But Monster of the Week, you got this really cool cover. It's by Evil Hat Productions. Um, so like trying to, like, I know like right in the beginning it calls out
All the different things. I
it's
mean, we
different.
also have a video on the channel about Monster of the Week as well. That's fairly recent.
Yeah, it's I've always loved the urban fantasy genre, and I've been particularly happy to see it take over primetime shows with like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, and Sleepy Hollow. Yet somehow the first edition, um, but it goes on, that calls out things like that. I mean, I've watched a whole bunch of Charmed, and that definitely falls into this kind of thing as well. But anything that's like whether
Modern day, kind of spooky, kind of works. Like I also drew some inspiration from used to be a TV show called Friday the 13th, where it's like basically a pawn shop that had a bunch of cursed items in it. And the owner died, and the items went all over the place. And then like I guess like maybe his like grandson or nephew and one other person are like trying to track down the stuff. So as bad things are happening wherever they go.
there's also a new show that's coming out that I feel like would be pretty perfect to play with Monster of the Week. That like part of me would kind of find hokey but hilarious at the same time. It was called like Surreal Estate. So basically, you've got a realtor, a real estate person
Uh,
who is selling haunted houses. Like he has to go in, deal with a supernatural threat so that he can actually sell the house. Uh,
what a shitty job. Like, be like,
uh,
I could just like sell regular houses, or I could get these ones with like, talk about your fixer upper.
so I don't know. I think it sounds interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out at some point in time. But it's absolutely, to me, fuel for a Monster of the Week kind of game. Um, but I definitely love those kinds of shows, and to feel that they're basically fuel for a setup for these kind of games. It's kind of like I'm getting entertained and inspiration at the same time.
Well, I'm hoping at some point you guys make it up to Camp Crystal Lake. It's up in North Jersey.
Yeah, I definitely know that name.
But I didn't want to do two. I didn't want to do two campgrounds too close together.
Yeah, no,
So
dude, totally. But I mean,
spread it out a little bit.
we've done a handful of sessions, and we're having a blast with it. Um, we finally had the full table in attendance this particular this past Saturday. So that was pretty awesome.
It is. It's weird to see everybody in person for the first time too. Finally.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen when you've been gaming so long with your fellow players via screen, and having never seen somebody in real life, and I'm like, oh, that's what that's the amount of space that you take up.
You're much smaller in my in my head or on my screen, I should say.
One of the players who missed last session, he's like, all right, this basement is way too short for me. I'm like, well, then be careful here and be careful here.
Yeah, these are the danger zones for you tall folk.
I'm not exactly blessed with height, shall we say.
It's one of the advantages of being built like a dwarf is I generally don't bump my head on things. But I feel like when you do bump your head on things, you bump it extra hard because you're not used to hitting your head on things.
Well, I have areas in my house that are, for those tall folk, are definitely concussion areas that if you're not careful, it's going to happen.
Ted's house is booby trapped. You heard it here, but only against the tall. Take that, tall people. So we are at just past the hour mark.
So I would definitely say if you're looking for things to do, we have Dave returning with the live chat. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week. Hopefully, I'm getting that right and that somebody didn't bail on us. We've also got 2 games this week. Tomorrow, you can of course come back for the Quest RPG for some more ingest Quest. And then Wednesday, we're going to have a one-shot with some awesome people run by Brian Colin of Creature Creation and Infinite Black. He's going to be running some Vast Grim, which is currently out on GameFound and unlocking some amazing stretch goals. Definitely looking forward to that game.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, I have to not mention the thing that we might not be able to mention yet. But I had fun with that thing for the game that's coming up. It is a sci-fi horror game, and the premise is the universe has gone to pot. Earth doesn't really exist anymore. People have colonized like asteroids, and they live on spaceships and stuff. But someone opened up an ancient mausoleum and let out basically what they call worms. And if you get infected by these worms, you then basically you become what's called the Grim, which is the Grim are basically like space zombies, in my opinion. But it's also like kind of OSR style game. It's based off of Morkbork. If you played that, where fatality is kind of supposed to be kind of high in the game. There's like a mechanic you roll at the beginning of the game just to see if something terrible happens. So you're not really supposed to survive that one as much as it's a meat grinder-ish style game. It'll be fun.
I'm down to check it out and see if I happen to live. My character was not just completely. Like, I didn't go through and hand spec it like I've done with other characters, but the character's listed as a survivor. So we'll see whether or not.
Your class. I think I'm playing some kind of doctor person. I think a technobiologist or something. I wanted to play something. I played a treacherous merc already, so changing it up. So so you can come back to the channel and hang out with us for those things. Our games all happen at 8:00 in the evening. Live chats happen 12 noon. We take Wednesdays off because that's when we're filming in person. And until next time, stay nerdy.